Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing well. I am so excited for this video. We are making from scratch our very own red truck and tree decorations. I ordered these acrylic blanks from Moray over at Lothian Woodworks, all linked below. I ordered these last Christmas, guys. I've been waiting a year. Last Christmas. They've been sitting on my shelf and I've been staring at them and I knew this day would come. We are going to be using the Let's Resin silicone rubber. I am a Let's Resin ambassador, so it's all linked below. Now I'm going to try and get all three of these pieces into one cookie cutter. So if you want to do anything like this and you get your acrylic blanks, cookie cutters are genius for the smaller pieces. I'm just going to use packing tape, a cookie cutter, and that is all you need. I have laid down my packing tape. Now you can't really see it here, but it's there, I promise. And I've just pressed my cookie cutter well and truly down into the tape. These acrylic blanks are protected by a film, so you just have to make sure that you peel that off fully before you take a mold of it. I actually use my Cricut weeding tool to do this. It's the easiest way to get these off, so I do try to be really careful and not scratch the acrylic. I'm also trying real hard not to touch the surfaces of the acrylic. I'm just touching the sides because we do not want fingerprints. If we accidentally touch the surfaces, then we are going to get a fingerprint onto that acrylic, and trust me, that fingerprint will transfer into your silicone and we don't want that. Next up, you want your professional rubbing tool, aka the sleeve of your jumper, to just press real firmly down onto the acrylic blanks, making sure that they are fully stuck down to that tape. Packing tape works beautifully if you are thinking of starting silicone molds and you may feel a little bit intimidated like I did. Then honestly, packing tape is your best friend when it comes to making your very first silicone molds. I did exactly the same with the tree, and I did exactly the same with the tires of the car. Now, the reason I asked Moray to cut these pieces individually for me is so that I could get a real true color in each of the components of the car and just then kind of glue them together at the end. Otherwise, if I had the mold itself, everything was kind of going to blend into one, and I wanted the actual different colors in the tree and in the truck and in the tires. So it made sense to me to have them all cut completely separately and mold them separately and glue them together after the fact. This is what we were looking like, and it was time to mix our silicone. Now, Let's Resin silicone rubber is beautiful. You cannot go wrong. It is measurable part A and part B 1:1, exactly the same measurements by weight. So once you have weighed out exactly the same of part A, part B, mix it together thoroughly for 5 minutes just to make sure that both of those components have utterly mixed together. You can add any mica powder you want to color your silicone as well. I have just gone with blue here, but it was very clear to me as soon as I started pouring that I definitely did not make enough. So I do end up having to make a second batch, and I figured, why not? We're going to add a different color. So I just went with this, where it's meant to be red mica, but it's not a very good red mica. If anyone knows of a really solid red mica powder, please let me know, because I do believe Wendy from Toompish Crafts and myself still have not found the perfect red. This is what it is looking like, and can you see here the bubbles are releasing themselves? But to help that along, make sure you pour your silicone from real high up, so 2 feet off the desk is perfect. It helps the bubbles knock themselves out. And then this is the next day. It really is a case of taking that tape off, and it comes off a dream, and then you can just pop your silicone out of the cookie cutter. Perfection, honestly. It is so easy to make a silicone mold using this method. Then we pop out the acrylic blanks and we have ourselves a mold. This is the most perfect mold of the red truck and tree. Honestly, that image to me is very American. If anyone sees this, it is an American image. Very much came from America, but you guys influence us so much. That's why we're poor, because we spend on all of the things and all of the craft supplies. But yes, the image itself screams American Christmas, and I just love it. The mold itself came out perfectly, lots of little divots and nooks and crannies in this, so I did want to pour real slow as well, making sure it got down into all of those areas. Now of course we need to go red glitter in the red truck. I'm going with my Black Vista liquid pigment for the wheels and the Let's Resin green mica for the tree. This is my shadow foam wall that keeps everything in place. If you want to know more about shadow foam, everything is linked down below in the description box along with everything else. The resin I decided to use, just because I could, and it's super simple and easy resin as well, is the Let's Resin 4-hour cure. Now I do worry about bubbles in the 4-hour cure resin just because it doesn't have much time to release them. But when you're doing block colors like this, I really love using it. Like, if there are any bubbles in there, we'll never know because we're coloring the resin and we're adding glitter. So for the wheels, I'm just using the black, like I said, and it was at this point I kind of wish I made 3 separate molds. So I've got the 3 separate components. I've put them all in one mold, but I kind of wish here that I'd molded them all completely separately, even in like tiny little cookie cutters. Like the smallest ones I've got would have been perfect, and the reason for that is that they're just so fiddly. So I was kind of trying to stretch the silicone and like move the silicone to one side to try and get the resin in there, and my brain was like, see, this is where separate molds would have been a really good idea. I've mixed in my green mica powder from Let's Resin, but into that you saw me get it from my shadow foam wall. I did add a little bit of the dark green Vista liquid pigment just because I felt like the mica was a bit too pale for me. I wanted it a tad darker. And again, I'm just pouring real slow, allowing that resin to flow and do its thing, get into all of the branches on the trees, and I am in love with this green. It is the perfect Christmas tree green. Next up, we have the glitter. Now, the red glitter is from Heyyyyyy. I do not work with Heyyyyyy, but Heyyyyyy.com if you want to get your hands on this. This is my favorite red glitter. I've said it a million times on my channel, going back years, and I'll say it again. It is the most perfect red glitter I've ever used, and honestly, I do like to pack my glitter in. So if you're wondering why there's so much in there, I love the look of a totally saturated glitter. I'm not a massive fan of just 2 or 3 pieces of glitter in a resin project, and when I use the red, I'm really using it for the power it gives, that super sparkle and the real impact. And yeah, this is what it's looking like. Did I make a mess? Absolutely yes, I did. I made such a mess. I had leftovers, so I'm just throwing it into another mold to use at a later date. This is what they're looking like on demold. I absolutely love the green. I think it was the most perfect choice, and the truck came out exactly as I wanted it to. But guys, wait until you see what I'm going to do with these, because honestly, the red glitter looks amazing now, but by the time we finish, this red glitter is almost like 3D amazing, in your face, beautiful. I was so happy with the mold. Honestly, it's nice and thin, which means it's super flexible, and it allows me to get all of my pieces out real easy. And the tires, look how neat these are. I was so worried about air pockets around those 90-degree angles, and this is when I realized I messed up, guys. I messed up. Why? I didn't think about the orientation of my tree. So when I took the mold of the tree, I just threw the mold down in there, the acrylic blank. I threw the acrylic blank down in there, and I took a mold, and it was the wrong orientation, which means now we get the back of the tree. I really want the front. I want the neater side. I was so gutted because honestly, I've already waited long enough to do this, and this was a few days in realizing I'd done it wrong. So here we are making yet another tree blank. I've put the actual acrylic blank down into my tape the right way around now, and honestly my brain was like, is that the right way? is that the right way? If I fill it, it's gonna flip it, we're gonna flip it, it's gonna look like this. Yes, yes, yes. Trust me, I was actually questioning myself when it came to remolding the tree. Unfortunately with this one, there's no unfortunately, it's all good, it works out fine, but I had used a bit too much silicone. I'd made the mould a tad too deep, which is kind of a waste of silicone, but it just was a little bit more fiddly to get out of the cookie cutter, and that's not ideal. So really only use what you need when you are making moulds. Now, this is the next day, and because I've already waited a year and I've now waited 3 days to make the actual correct orientation of the tree, I'm going down the speedy route this time, guys. I'm not messing. I've got no patience left. I've got no more will. So we are using the absolutely stunning Intense Chameleon Powder by Let's Resin in the green. I already love this. I've now used it in a couple of projects. I know this is going to look stunning, and I'm just dusting my new tree mould with that powder. And for pure speediness, we're going with the white polyurethane from Let's Resin. This is a 30-second mix time. You barely get any work time, and it cures within 10 minutes. It really was such a speeded up cure. Like, I sped the video up for you guys, but because I made a mess and I cleaned it up and then I added a little more, it was almost going off to the point where I was almost running out of time. Finally, we have our tree in the correct orientation, but you can see here where I poured in that polyurethane, it didn't quite get into all of the nooks and crannies. So it's not perfect, but what tree is perfect? This is what it is looking like 2 days later. And I ended up making another one with green glitter in the tree. It's 2 days later because I ordered some 5-minute epoxy glue, Gorilla 5-minute epoxy, and it took a couple of days to come from Amazon. This was one of those times where I couldn't get Prime. It is a 2-part epoxy that cures in 5 minutes, and you squeeze the handle at the end. Both parts come out together at the same time, making sure that you've got equal parts, and then you just mix it. Now, it's been a while since I've used this stuff, so I wasn't quite sure, but I just mixed it with a stick for around kind of like 1 minute and just hoped for the best, if I'm honest. Then I used the tiniest blob of that 5-minute epoxy. You can see it here, it's minimal, and I just laid it down on the back of my red truck in order to be able to put that tree down and stick it on. I actually ended up scraping a little bit off here because the tree itself doesn't touch the top of the truck all the way along. So again, it's just those little details that I don't see beforehand, and I end up having to just clean off a bit. But once it was on, it was all good. Now, this 5-minute epoxy says 5 minutes. Guys, there's no way, it doesn't cure in 5 minutes. I'm sorry. For me, that was total false information. I just put tiny little glob on the inside of the tire there, like, what do you call it? The cap, the tire cap, wheel cap. A couple of little blobs in there and pushed the tires up in. And honestly, I just left it. I pushed it to one side, and I was kind of hoping that that 5-minute epoxy would just do its thing and, yeah, glue them all together. The same with the glitter tree. Now, I got myself in such a mess with this. I was just really trying not to get any on the actual item. Again, with the inside of those caps, getting it in there as well and pushing my tires in. Now, when I say it was false information, I truly felt like this did not cure in 5 minutes. I want to say it was more like 10 minutes, maybe 12. I kind of just kept my eye on it and kept having a little bit of a fiddle just to see, have they stuck, have they stuck? And honestly, the car with the glitter tree stuck almost within that 5 minutes as stated, but this one, no, we still had some wiggle room. So I don't know if it was because of the mica powder, it didn't like the mica, who knows, but the glitter tree stuck within the 5 minutes stated. Now, this is around 30 minutes later, and I am filming at night, so I am so sorry for the dodgy lighting. It's something on my wish list that I have a really decent night light to enable me to film after 4 o'clock in the afternoon. This is actually 6 p.m. and I've got my LED lights on, but I know that the image is not as ideal as I would like it to be. But sadly, I was running out of time and I needed to get this done. So we do look at them in the daylight as well, so you can really see. What I'm doing here, you've already seen on screen. I'm just giving the whole item as a collective. So because all 3 pieces are now stuck together, I wanted to give them a top coat of UV resin to make them pop, bring them to life, and make them into one solid piece. The only thing I didn't film was me doing the tires, and I'm not quite sure why that is. I don't know if it was just like, yeah, I'd lost the will at this point. But this is what they are both looking like. This is at night. Again, at night. I feel like I've done a good job. But honestly, guys, do not UV resin at night. I don't know if it's because my eyesight's bad or what's going on, but with the best intentions and all of the lights, I'll show you what happened. Now, I really wanted to use that candy cane stripe rope. I've got a super fat chunky one. If you watch my home channel, you'd recognize it from the mugs I just bought, but it was just too fat. It was just too fat for these gorgeous dainty decorations. So I used the super thin one, and all I need to do here is use my go-to jewelry drill, linked below in my Amazon storefront in tools, drill some teeny tiny holes and use my tiny little screw eyelets to get them in there to hang them from the tree. Now for me, this was all about counterbalance. I wasn't sure where to put the hook because really until you put it in, you don't really know how it's gonna hang. Is it going to be central or is it going to be kind of lopsided? What's it looking like? And it was bang on perfect. The actual first branch of that tree is the perfect location. If you are thinking of making anything like this, honestly, I love them. I'm so obsessed, it's ridiculous. I was toying with the idea of perhaps putting some white acrylic vinyl on the truck, maybe some kind of saying, or you could personalize them with someone's name. But yeah, at this point I was done. I was done. This is the next day in daylight, and look at this. How shocking. I have missed an entire chunk from the truck that I didn't even touch with the UV resin, and yet at night it looked perfect to me. I was looking at all angles. I was even shining the torch from my phone down to see if I'd actually got the UV resin to all of the edges. Look at this in daylight. Absolute shoddy workmanship, Claire. Shoddy workmanship. But yeah, I will just have to top them up. But let me know what you think. I love the fact that we've made these from scratch. We made these from scratch. You will not be able to buy these because we've made them ourselves. If you are interested in any acrylic blanks, again, I did buy them from Moray Lothian Woodworks. So this is not sponsored by him in any way. If you are interested in getting hold of some acrylic blanks, Moray can pretty much do any design that you want. Make your own DIY silicone inlays using your packing tape and your cookie cutters. And honestly, it's original. It's original to you. It's completely yours, completely unique. We've made it from scratch. I love them. I love them so, so much. I actually cannot wait to get my tree up. No lie, it's going to be a while yet, but I cannot wait to get these on the tree. I hope you have enjoyed and feel inspired to crack on and make your own DIY silicone molds. I will see you all on Saturday. If you are still here, guys, Saturday's video is massive. It's massive. Okay, we're doing a lot in one video. I hope you will join me then, and until then, bye bye.